Hello everyone, welcome and welcome back to the Product Marketing Festival in APAC. With product marketing experts from Singapore, Australia, China Mainland, Hong Kong, Malaysia, India, and many other regions. We'll be covering all product marketing aspects from sales enablement, go-to-market strategy, to customer onboarding, positioning, and messaging. We got them all. You are guaranteed to walk away with tons of new ideas and strategies to take your product to the next level. I would also like to take this chance to say a big thank you to all festival speakers. We cannot make this without you. Also, thanks for the support from iClick Interactive. Their presentation, Discover the Secret to Adapting Data-Driven Marketing in China, is scheduled at day 1 afternoon, 3:30 Singapore time. I highly recommend it if you have not signed up for it yet. Last but not the least, if you would like to interact with our speakers and other attendees, please join our group page link at the end. We look forward to the Q&A session and your feedback over there. Relax and enjoy the festival.
iClick Interactive's marketing technology platform is fueled by data. Our data helps to drive, connect, and enable every step of all marketing activities conducted on our platform. When marketing to China, the key challenge lies in the lack of quality and deployable data to start with. And this is where we come in to help. Every brand has its own target segment, and there is no one-size-fits-all solution. With our proprietary keyword-based audience identification engine, a unique solution among online marketing technology platforms in China, we help brands to move from rigid, predefined audience categories to intuitively defining their own custom target segments. The intelligence comes with in-depth audience knowledge in a multi-dimensional manner, from demographics and geographies to psychographics, giving brands meaningful understanding of their target segments on what they do, what they like, and what they care about. Brands can then readily size up their total accessible market opportunity and decide if it's right or big enough for them. And we don't just take a snapshot of these segments. We're capable of monitoring their changes over time, helping brands to drive the marketing funnel down from potential audiences and brand followers to website visitors and owned users. Brands can also benchmark specific product portfolio followers with actual sales to identify areas for growth. Getting to know your competitors is just as important as knowing your customers. Our platform allows brands to learn about their own position in the market as well as that of their competitors, helping brands to adjust their overall brand strategy. While the intelligence is good for decision-making purpose, brands can actually activate the data right away on the same platform via our massive media network in China, delivering messages to their target segments via the right channel, on the right device, at the right time. We also help brands conduct online-offline conversion by mapping their audience hotspots in the Chinese cities to develop data-driven, location-based retail strategy, intelligently converting online traffic to offline leads and realize smart online-offline integration. Having an accurate grasp of data intelligence is a vital first step to any successful marketing initiatives. With our ever-growing data capabilities, we look forward to empowering brands on their China-targeted marketing initiatives.
Hi folks, I'm Tanvi Kapoor, currently a Partner Product Marketing Manager at Facebook for the APAC Media Partnerships team. I've been a product marketer for 8 years now and have worked across primarily B2B products in the advertising and publishing space with brand advertisers, performance advertisers, app developers, as well as media companies and influencers. During the course of my experience, I have worked with multiple product managers and customer-facing teams across both startups like InMobi, as well as big technology giants like Facebook. Obviously, when I made the switch from the startup world to Facebook, I was quite apprehensive. I was going from a company where I was the only person between the product manager and the sales team to a company where there were many, many layers in the product marketing function itself. However, I soon realized that the basic tenets of the work remained unchanged. Our job comes down to two main pillars: make the product successful and make the business successful, which basically comes down to influencing the product teams to build what the customer needs and influencing the sales team to sell what the company builds. Today, I would like to share with you all some of the core skill sets and practices I have found useful in influencing product teams and sales teams. Let me just share my screen. A little bit more about me. I have worn multiple hats across my career and taken the reverse trajectory of what I see most people taking. I started as a software engineer, then did a bit of product management, and realized that the technical aspects and program management aspects of the role were not what I wanted to do longer term. I finally chanced upon product marketing 8 years ago and found it to be the perfect combination for using my technical skills and product know-how and marketing skills to achieve the company's objectives. I'm sure there are multiple sessions today and yesterday which focused more on the details of what exactly product marketing is. Different companies have different definitions. In some cases, the role is internal. In some cases, it is about external marketing, and in some cases, both. But for the sake of context, I view product marketing as the bridge between product teams and customer-facing teams, and sometimes even as the bridge between the different product teams. At Facebook, the elevator pitch for this role is voice of product in market and voice of market in product. In B2B companies, product marketing plays a role right from product development to launch to sales. During the development phase, product marketing is responsible for shaping the features of the product through a combination of an external point of view, like what is the competition doing, what is the market opportunity, to the internal point of view, like which features should we prioritize. It may also involve coordinating across policy and legal teams to identify what are the constraints in a specific market, and testing the product through an initial set of alpha and beta customers. During the launch phase, the product marketer is responsible for building out the go-to-market plan, both for pre-launch and post-launch priorities. This may include product positioning and messaging, building out the sales materials, training the sales teams, as well as working with marketing to create hype for the launch through press features, case studies, sizzle reels, etc. The job doesn't end with the product launch. The product marketer is also responsible for driving product adoption through the sales teams, identifying the right marketing channels like lead generation and ad campaigns, and further iterating on the product to continuously enhance it and solve for evolving customer needs. As you can see, this is a role based on influence. Neither is the product marketer building the product, nor are they selling it to the customer, but they have to influence other teams to do so. So ability to influence is a skill set that is essential for this person. If you have read any articles or books around psychology, one of the first things that will be mentioned is Robert Cialdini's principles around what helps build and exert influence. He maintained that by using the principles of reciprocity, consistency, social proof, liking, authority, and scarcity, the ability to influence others can be learned. It is not so different in the life of a product marketer either. Once you identify the different teams you need to influence, you can leverage similar principles to build a relationship with them where they trust the inputs you give and act on them. Let's start by discussing a few principles which are great for working with product teams. The first principle is focus on scale. Whether it is a small company or a big company, product and engineering teams are always inundated with 1,001 feature requests. For every salesperson, their customer is the most important, and so is the smallest feature request that comes from such a customer. However, products are built not for one client, but to be used by many. Otherwise, you will end up building a different product for each client. Now, if you're in the business of customizing solutions, that is okay, but more often than not, product teams want to build for scale. Hacking a solution for one client will only mean more work if another client wants a different variant, which would end up derailing the product and engineering teams from their stated timelines. Let's see metrics like X number of countries unlocked, Y number of customers benefit, or a Z% improvement in a specific metric will really help motivate the product teams. So whenever you talk to product teams, make sure to highlight the scale of the problem and the scale of the impact to really get them thinking about it. As an example, at Facebook, any advertising feature request needs to meet a certain revenue generation criteria for it to be prioritized for development. When I was at InMobi, we took similar calls, like building a scalable platform for native ads versus customizing the ad format for a native experience for each publisher. This may end up in a longer turnaround time for the very first customer, but after that, the product scales super fast. Second principle, be objective. This is an important quality that is required in the product marketer. Your job is to be objective and always keep in mind the company's goals and KPIs. A product manager cares about the success of their product and may want to push it towards all customers. Oftentimes, we see teams getting swept away under the pressure of goals at the end of the performance cycle and take launch decisions that may be detrimental to the customers. It is human nature to try to achieve your goals with a last-ditch effort. Similarly, a salesperson cares about their customers and will really hype up the needs and challenge of their customer. But as the objective person in the middle, the product marketer is responsible for analyzing the product market fit and identifying the right course of action for the company. This may mean telling the product team to put a halt on a hasty launch, which hasn't gone through the full process of testing or which does not have product market fit yet. It also means that you're expected to sift through the emotions and hype in the customer feedback and distill it to an objective set of requirements along with the opportunity size. Doing so in a calm and logical manner will help build trust with the product teams that when you ask for a feature, it has gone through the necessary due diligence to be meaningful. Related to the point of objectivity is contextualization. In global companies where product and engineering teams may be clustered in one country, it is hard for them to internalize how big a problem is or how big a customer is for another country. An engineer sitting in the US may not know what Grab is, but if you tell them that Grab is like the Uber of Asia, it will allow them to understand the importance of the customer impacted. They may have interacted with a customer in the US, but it is difficult to feel empathetic about an unknown entity you have never met or interacted with. Another challenge we often see in global companies is that the scale of revenue from Asian markets often tends to be much lower compared to the US or European markets. So again, stating the impact, not just in pure volume terms like $3 million, but contextualizing it as 50% of APAC's revenues are affected will help the seriousness of the situation. In my current role, I often ask product features for some of our media broadcasters in APAC, like MBC in Korea or Workpoint Entertainment in Thailand. One trick that always helps to put things in perspective for the product team is to compare it to the US broadcasters, like CBS or ABC networks. Similarly, if I have to talk about public figures like Shah Rukh Khan from India, I reference George Clooney to give them an idea of the stature of the person we are dealing with. So as you can imagine, as a product marketer, you're dealing with a huge volume of different types of tasks. So are the product teams. For instance, any advertising product has multiple aspects associated with it. The ad format, the optimization, the user experience, tools to set up the ad campaign, third-party measurement, infrastructure, and so many other things. Some of your feature asks may span across multiple aspects, and as such, it helps the product teams to get a prioritized list of requests. This may involve analyzing the feature requests across parameters like strategic importance, revenue impact, or any other metrics which are important for the company. Structuring feedback involves two main things. The first is to share the feedback in the priority order that will really move the needle. Remember, it is easy to think that the feature which created the most noise is the most important, but as the objective product marketer, it is your job to take a neutral stance and really indicate the asks which will benefit the company the most. The second aspect is structuring the feedback process itself. If you keep sharing feedback and feature requests with the product teams all year round, there are bound to be things which will fall through the cracks and get hidden beneath layers. Having a structured market feedback process which aligns with the product road mapping cycle that the company follows is ideal for major asks. Of course, bugs and minute changes which will unblock adoption can be shared anytime. At Facebook, most teams follow a biannual product road mapping cycle, which happens in April and October. The product marketing team does an elaborate market feedback exercise with the customer-facing teams at least 1 month before, so that we have time to collate the feedback, analyze it objectively with the expected impact on metrics, prioritize it, and socialize it with the product leadership, so that we can answer any specific questions they may have. The feedback process starts from a customer level, is then aggregated at a country level, then at a region level, and finally at a global level to assess how important the product ask is globally in the larger scheme of things. This is then incorporated into the product roadmaps if it makes the cut. Sharing this process and thresholds for how we decide what gets prioritized with the customer-facing teams also helps set expectations with them on what will and won't get developed. A common complaint we often hear from product managers is that they don't want asks for specific solutions, but rather to understand the problem itself. This is because the one solution we're asking for may not be the only answer or even the best answer to the problem. If the product manager understands the problem, they're more likely to think of it in a holistic 360-degree fashion and study all possible solutions for it, identify the best one, and then prioritize it. I would say the reality is not so black and white, and what helps is to clearly state the problem and provide possible solutions that you're aware of in the prioritized order. Sometimes the best solution may not be what you have asked for. However, your ask is important for parity with competitors, and by giving this level of detail, you are also able to educate the product manager on why you think your suggested solution is a reasonable ask. When I started as a product marketer at InMobi many years ago, I once made a feature request for more interactive features in rich media ads. The product manager took the time to understand where the request was coming from, which was basically to increase CPM. He then created a 360-degree plan to not just build more interactive features in rich media templates, but also build out new formats like interstitial ads and improve the performance of banner ads, all of which resulted in higher CPMs for the publisher. Cialdini's principle of reciprocity says that people are obliged to give back to others the form of behavior, gift, or service that they have received first. Product teams at the end of the day are comprised of people, and this principle works well with them too. More often than not, we reach out to the product manager or engineer when we want something, like a new feature or solve for a bug. But by simply recognizing them when things work well, like a customer success story or a difficult customer onboarded because of a product they built, goes a long way in building goodwill with them. It also shows them how the products they are building are being used in the market and increases their sense of responsibility towards the customer. In the media partnerships team at Facebook, we realized that we were continuously reaching out to the product teams with asks. The feature is not working, we need another 10 features for parity, and so on. If you reflect on it, no one wants to be seen as a team that is always complaining, and so we changed the format a little. Now we regularly showcase success stories from across the globe, and this instills pride in the product team on how their work is being leveraged by so many different clients. Now that you have understood the different principles for working with the product teams, how can you apply it practically? Beyond the softer nuances, here are a few tips for what you can do. Identify sponsors for the product feedback process. This means that the product leadership team needs to be bought into the feedback process that you build for the team. Second, structure inputs for product roadmaps well in time. Even if you don't have a formal process yet, I'm sure you might have experienced questions from your product teams in an ad hoc manner, like what are the biggest problems our customers are facing right now? Instead of scrambling to speak to customers and understand their pain points at the last minute, as a product marketer, you can maintain a list of feature asks and challenges you have received throughout the year, or even have a formal process to collect customer feedback well in time before the road mapping begins. Align on the details necessary for evaluating feedback. Each company and each team within it may have different metrics they care about. The route to successful prioritization is to have a handle on what these metrics are so you can evaluate all of the product asks objectively and quantitatively. In the next slide, I will also show you a sample of the template, which I think is pretty good. And finally, schedule customer interactions. Over the course of my product marketing career, I've realized that sometimes product managers need to hear feedback directly from the customer for it to really sink in. I guess it is human nature. When you're in the room or on the VC call with the partner and see the human behind the problem, it builds empathy. Scheduling a few customer interactions goes a long way in getting product teams bought in to solve a problem. You will, of course, need to be thoughtful about which customer will give detailed and effective feedback. This is a pretty handy template for capturing and organizing market feedback. As you can see here, the problem is what is the customer challenge, but the columns before it are filled based on the knowledge of the product marketer as to what product area it belongs to. The columns after the problem column are used to evaluate the importance of that feedback. In my team, the feedback is first collected at the partner segment level. That is, we have one such sheet for APAC entertainment partners, another for US news, and so on. The next step is to aggregate the feedback by product area so that we can collate all of the feedback from the different verticals globally and share with the respective product teams. We then also hold feedback readout sessions where we give them the TLDR and use it as an opportunity to clarify any questions they may have. This next section is going to look at some principles that I have found useful in influencing sales teams. First principle, build empathy. Sitting in the office, if you don't go out and meet customers, you will never really know the kind of pressure and tough questions that your sales teams have to face day in and day out. Customers are crafty and know they can easily play one company against another, and more often than not will always demand more and more benefits from the sales teams. Make sure to attend customer meetings every now and then to understand what kind of feedback your products are getting, what changes may be needed in the sales materials or positioning to make the pitch more robust, and what questions need to be addressed in battle cards. It is not easy to face tough questions from your customers without having the requisite answers, and this will help you understand the point of view your sales teams are coming from when they share feedback. Even more important, when your sales team comes to you and shares some hard feedback they might have received from the client, be open to hearing them out versus jumping into arguments. Take the time to calm them down and then objectively discuss possible solutions. This will build likability and trust that you are someone they can go to with their challenges. You can attend customer meetings along with your sales teams, or even create a client council to meet a few strategic customers together. Industry events are also a great way to meet multiple customers at the same time. Related to empathy, but on the other end of the spectrum, is objectivity. While it is important to be empathetic towards what your sales teams face in the market, you cannot lose objectivity of what matters to the company. Oftentimes, salespersons will create a huge hype around specific feedback from a customer who may be very important to them. However, as the person who straddles both product and business, it is your responsibility to evaluate that feedback with a neutral mindset, assess if it is fair, and how important it is in the larger scheme of things. I call this separating noise from signal. I have experienced that in big global companies where there are processes and defined metrics to evaluate, this is easier done. However, in startups, typically the customer or the salesperson with the loudest voice manages to have a strong influence on the roadmap. However, also remember that in a global company, a problem that a customer is facing in one country might be similar to what their counterparts are facing in another country. So make sure to log the feedback so that you can evaluate it globally, during the feedback process, and recommend to the product team if it solves for a significant use case. At other times, the lack of a certain feature may render product adoption impossible for a specific set of clients. And so it is also your responsibility to pass on this feedback to the sales leadership and planning teams so that the salespersons are not penalized for it unnecessarily. Just like on the product side, it is important to get buy-in from sales leadership for product-specific goals to hold the sales team accountable. It is also important to prove to the sales team how the specific product will contribute towards their target so that they're excited about driving adoption. Even then, you may realize that the sales teams are taking the path of least resistance, selling what is easier to sell and not what may be of strategic priority for the company. In some companies, a part of the sales incentives are based on product adoption goals. In others, you have to be creative and come up with rewards and recognition programs to drive product adoption. And sometimes you need both, especially for products which are new and complicated to sell. When I was at InMobi and we had just launched the interstitial ad format, we thought it would see immediate adoption. However, since it required a slightly more complicated integration, we realized the sales team was continuing to push on banner ads to meet their revenue targets. So we had to create a sales ninja program with awards like gift vouchers and even a vacation to get that initial burst of adoption for the new format. Whenever you are testing or launching a new product, it is important to build a prioritized adoption plan. You don't want to test a product with all customers with a spray and pray approach. Having a clear idea of who is the target segment for the product and who would most benefit from it is important to get the first few success stories and light the way for larger scale adoption. At Facebook, whenever we test new products, we have a strict eligibility criteria and defined metrics to assess the success of the test. This also helps identify successful case studies right at the beginning, which also serve as your marketing material for a full launch. As a product marketing manager, your job is to enable the sales team to meet business objectives. A part of the enablement also means acting as their backup whenever needed. This could be for talking about complex products or even assisting them in the first few conversations for a new product. So you can show them how to handle the questions or objections a customer might have. It might also mean backing them up when they have bad news to share with the customer, like a feature being deprecated or some type of enforcement. Typically, customers are delighted when they get to meet product teams from a company. And I always tell my sales team that if you want to show some extra love to the client and tell them how important they are and need a product person in the room, you can always pull me in. This tells the customer that they're important to your company. Letting your salesperson shine, whether by showing them they have the ear of the product team or by being the bearer of bad news and sharing the product perspective with the customer, is the simplest way to help them achieve their business goals. So what do these principles mean practically? 1, align with sales goals. As I mentioned, you can have product adoption goals, but if the sales leadership is not bought in and does not include them as part of the goals for the teams, hitting your targets will be incredibly difficult. The converse is also necessary. Try to align your product adoption initiatives with the sales goals as much as possible and include proof points to show how the products will help the sales team hit their targets. Second, track outcomes. It is not just enough to build plans and work through the year, but also package and show the results to your stakeholders. The product marketing role is one of a middleman, connecting people and getting other teams to execute on stuff. And often it becomes difficult to showcase what value you might have added. But listing all the ways you have contributed towards driving product adoption will help strengthen the role of product marketing in your organization. And finally, close the loop. Collecting market feedback is an incredibly time-consuming process. And the best way to thank the sales team for their efforts is to show them how the feedback they have shared has helped shape the product roadmap. This also motivates them to be plugged in next time around and share thoughtful feedback. I would like to share a template that I use to build out my plans for the half and use it to communicate with my stakeholders so they know what to expect from me, as well as what not to expect from me, like solving bugs. I create the plan at the same time that the sales team builds their revenue plans and align with the sales leaders so there is top-down alignment to hit the product goals, and also so I know what may need to be deprioritized from my list for now. I also schedule monthly check-ins with the sales leaders so I can secure their support for areas where progress might be slow, as well as to have a pulse check on any new priorities which may be surfacing in the market. Here is also a template I use to close the loop on the market feedback with the sales team. It includes both the features which will be prioritized for development, as well as those which won't, and why not. This helps train the sales team on what kind of feedback makes the cut. To summarize, if you can focus on these 9 principles of scale, context, objectivity, prioritization, reciprocity, empathy, leadership alignment, recognition, and structured communication, you will be able to do a fantastic job in working with your product and sales stakeholders. Thank you.